Hello, all you Hellraiser fanatics out there. It's your host with the most, Benjamin Dutil, with the Horror Healing YouTube channel and the South Jersey Horror Podcast. Today, I am sitting down with one of my favorite actors of all time, Simon Bamford, who you all know as Butterball from Hellraiser 1987 and Hellbound Hellraiser II 1988. Just a quick little quip of I say this every time. Um, I love the Hellraiser franchise. I have always loved the Hellraiser franchise. I remember sneaking to the theater with my friend to watch Hellraiser on the big screen for the first time. And that's when I was emotionally and mentally hooked onto horror. And that's also when I realized that I fell in love with the Hellraiser franchise. It's an absolute masterpiece with great actors, and it's phenomenal franchise. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Simon. How you doing, sir?
Oh, very good, thanks, Ben. So, when you first saw Hellraiser, was that when you first started your sadomasochism tendencies? And I have a little complaint actually. All I can see behind you is Jason.
Oh no, that's Michael Myers.
Yeah, okay, Michael Myers.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's all I can see.
Um,
I don't see any Hellraiser at all.
well, my Hellraiser stuff's on that wall, so you can't see it. It's on that
Okay,
side of the room. Yeah, I got the poster, I got the mask that Clive Barker signed, and all of you like you, Barbie, Craig, and the guy who played the father. I can't remember his name. And yeah, the
Andrew
whole
Robinson.
time, yeah, when I saw you all there at Cherry Hill at Monster Mania, I had everybody sign it. So
Cool. It was a cool show. It was lovely to see Clive there as well.
yeah, I wanted to make sure that he signed it before he does his because he's not doing conventions anymore, as far as I know of. So I had to get that signed by Clive. That's definitely because he is the creator of Hellraiser. So it was a must win. Okay, I'm gonna shut up now. So I'm gonna let you do the talking because I want to know more about you and your role in the Hellraiser franchise.
Okay, so
So
first of all, I'd like you to welcome you to my dome. I bought a geometric dome last year from a garden, and it's really cool. And it's lovely sitting out here in the garden, even though it's cold outside. And I'm sitting here drinking what looks like beer because it's 5 o'clock in the evening here, but actually, I want it to look like beer because that's more horror rock and roll. But actually, it's shandy made with non-alcoholic beer, so it's a real pussycat drink. To be honest, it's more of a soda than anything else. But cheers!
cheers.
Cheers!
That looks like an awesome place to sit. I need to get one of those in my backyard. That looks
Yeah,
amazing.
it is really cool.
so if you could please enlighten us how a little bit about yourself and how your acting career started.
My acting career started. Okay, we're going back a long time now. So I'm 63 now, and I had a teacher, a headmaster when I was like 6 or 7, who was really into theatre, and so he started putting on plays, and that kind of got me hooked. And then I went through all the amateur stuff, and then I went off to drama school, and then I left there. And the very first, just before I graduated, this little theatre group that was set up nearby in that area came to see a production of King Lear that I was doing, and amongst this little fringe theatre was an unknown writer, actor, and director called Clive Barker, and his friend who was acting with him called Doug Bradley, and who else? Another friend that they'd met in London called Oliver Parker, and their company was called the Dog Company. Oh, and also Pete Atkins. I'll talk about all these shortly, but Pete Atkins, they had this little fringe theatre company called the Dog Company, and they came to see King Lear, and I was playing the fool. And Clive really liked what I was doing in it, so he asked to meet me afterwards. And he said, "When you graduate, I really want you to come and join our company." And I went, "Yeah, okay, that'd be cool." So that was my first job, was actually working with them. Of course, Clive went on to write Hellraiser and Nightbreed and everything else. Doug obviously became Pinhead, and I worked with him on many other shows. Actually, I worked with him in Nightbreed and the Books of Blood film. Um, and Pete Atkins wrote Hellraiser 2 and 3, I think. Sorry if that's wrong, but I know it's 2. And I ignore 3 because I wasn't in it. and Oliver Parker has become he was the removals man in Hellraiser 1 and 2, and he was Kinski or Peliquin, can't remember, in Nightbreed, and has had an amazing career as a film director in his own right, and has done loads and loads of stuff. And not sure if I'm supposed to say, but has been working on a screen adaptation of Clive Barker's The Thief of Always for several years. And last time I heard, he had a producer involved who was one of the producers from the Harry Potter franchise. Chris Barron. And so I'm great hopes for that, because Thief of Always is one of Clive's stories, but it's for kids, it's for teenagers. So Chris Barron would be the kind of perfect producer to have on board. So I'm really hoping that goes ahead next year, 2025. So fingers crossed. So yeah, it was kind of great start, really. And we all did Fringe Theatre, and Clive had these amazing ideas of what he wanted to achieve with absolutely no budget whatsoever. And we worked at the Cockpit Theatre in London. We went up to the Edinburgh Festival, which is an amazing international theatre festival. We went to Holland and toured over Holland. We went to this. We remember playing in a place called the Milkweg, which is called the Milky Way, and at the time, everybody smoked pot everywhere in Amsterdam, anyway. And in the Milky Way, it was like a nightclub at night, but then they put plays on kind of early evening. But everybody was smoking so much, and by the end, everybody was so stoned on stage, just because of this fog of smoke. So that was kind of an interesting. Yeah, it was. We got a lot of laughs, funnily enough. A lot of people giggling.
Man, I wish I was there to see that. That would have been exciting to see.
It was fun times, and we were all in our I was probably in my late teens, and everybody else was in their early 20s. So we did that for probably about a year. The company had been going a long time before I joined them, and then we weren't really making any money from it, and we'd all kind of become actors to make a living, and we weren't making any money. All the money was going back into these amazing props, and it's some interesting themes that Clive was exploring at the time. Like we did a play called Frankenstein in Love, and at one point there was a skinned man in it. So we had to create this complete bodysuit for Oliver Parker, which he had to get into, which was basically skinned man, which was obviously themes that Clive was exploring even then, which he put into a lot of stuff later on in his films, obviously in the Hellraiser with the Skin Man, and the idea with Frankenstein in Love. I mean, Hellraiser is very much a love story at its heart. So it was great. But then, so we all disbanded, and I went off and did a really shit show called, I don't know if you had it over there. It was called Oh Calcutta. It was like a nude review. It was really awful. I didn't do that one. That was before my time. But I did the follow-up show, which was called Why Not Bangkok, which is kind of self-explanatory, really, what it was about. So it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And then I did a few other bits and pieces, and then I did the first tour over here in the UK of Jesus Christ Superstar, which was great. It was fun. We had standing ovations everywhere. It was so much fun singing rock songs, and it was so much fun. And then I rang Clive out of the blue to see what he was up to, and he said, "Oh, I'm just because he'd become by this point." He'd become a pretty well-known author. He'd had his books of blood published, and they'd done really, really well. And he'd written screenplay for two films that had been made. One was called Rawhead Rex, and I always forget the other one. I never remember the other one. But he wasn't very happy with the way that they turned out, so he persuaded the production company to let him write and direct the next one. And I just happened to ring him at the right time. I said, what are you up to? And he said, I'm just about to do this film. Do you want to play a monster in it? And I went, yeah, okay, thinking it would be like a small little, I'd only done Fringe Theatre with him. I was thinking, yeah, right, this isn't going to get anywhere. And here we are, nearly 40 years later, still talking about it, and that was Hellraiser. So a few weeks later, we were all heading off to Pinewood Studios, which was where Image Animation was based, to have live casts done for the Cenobites, which we had no idea what they were going to be like or what they were going to turn out like. And then a few weeks after that, we went and had screen tests on the makeups. which was my first experience of wearing the Butterball mask and costume. But I assumed, and I assumed at that point that the eyes, they just hadn't finished the mask, so I'd be able to see. No. Yeah, so and that was that. A few weeks after that, we started filming Cricklewood Production Village, which was a tiny little production village on the outskirts of London. That doesn't exist anymore, and did some location work in Dollis Hill in this like residential house. I remember one day we all kind of turned up. A lot of the other filming was done there, but I think one of the days the Cenobites all turned up, and we'd had the makeup done in the studio, and then we all kind of piled into a van, and then we all got. I remember what the neighbours thought. This little residential house in the middle of like residential suburbia on the outskirts of London, and then 4 Cenobites that nobody had ever seen before. These creatures kind of coming out of this car and going into this house. And I do remember that house, they ripped out the staircase because they said it was too easy for Kirsty to escape from. So they ripped all of that out and they put in this ridiculous staircase, which nobody would ever have in the house, that had all these twists and turns and bends in it, just so it made it much harder for her to escape. Which was kind of cool. I doubt that still exists in that house because it would drive you potty if you had to go up and down that every day. So yeah, I think it had a budget when we started of $700,000, which was nothing, and nobody expected it to do anything. But it was a great chance for us all to work in film for the first time, and Clive to cut his teeth in directing, and yeah, that was it really. That was how it all started.
Oh wow, I mean, that's great. I mean, just keep in mind when I first saw this movie, I was 8 years old. So
yeah, I know.
me and my friend were supposed to go to see like a PG rated movie, and we saw like the poster for Hellraiser. I'm like, what's that all about? So I'm like, I'm gonna check it out. So me and my friend Terrell, we walked to the theater, we sat down, and I think we got into into the middle of the movie. So like when everything was going haywire, and I'm watching this movie, I'm like, what the hell am I watching? And then I love this. So what the hell's going on? So this is great. I mean, and I go home, I tell my dad all about it. I get grounded for a week, and it's nuts. So, and I start
Did you
asking my
used
friend.
to? Did you used to? So for us to get into multiplexes didn't really exist when I was trying to get into um, adult films. But I assumed what you could do when I later was you could go and buy your ticket for like a PG film, and then just go into another cinema and watch that film, which was an 18.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that
it's
how
that
you did
easy.
it?
It's that easy. Yeah, just do this. That's how I did it. I mean,
Yeah.
I forgot what movie we were supposed to go watch, and then I saw Hellraiser. I'm like, that sounds cool. Let's go check that out. And I don't regret seeing this. I don't. I do not regret seeing the theater. So just seeing all the Cenobites on the big screen, I'm like, dude, this is gonna be an amazing movie. I mean, it's not the makeup, the special effects. Everything was just very striking to me. I loved it. It's just so incredibly effective. I mean,
Yeah.
you
I
guys in
think
Clive, go
I
ahead.
think it was one of those lucky. I strongly believe in theatre and in film, you get those lucky times where every section comes together magically, and you just happen to have the right cast, the right composers, the right special effects people, and then you have this the right cinematographer. All everybody who's working on it just happens to be at the peak of where they should be, and then over all of that, you have Clive Barker, who is such a lovely man to work for and is incredibly creative, but also isn't doesn't cut down on what you're doing. He wants you to be as creative as he's being. So he gives you huge amounts of free reign to go away. He'll throw ideas at you and let you go away and come up with loads of your own ideas because you're so inspired by everything he's just told you. And then you come back and he'll say, "Oh yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm not sure about that, but I love that." And so he's encouraging everybody else to be incredibly creative as well. And I think most of the people working on it behind the scenes were kind of at the starts of their careers, or certainly early on in their careers. So they were in their early 20s. You get this wonderful special effects company, Image Animation, that could come up with this stuff. You got Jane Wildgoose, who came up with the Cenobite costumes. Um, you've got the incredible cast like Claire Higgins. Clive always says that without Claire, it wouldn't have been, because the film relies on her and the audience to believe that this woman is so in love that when she finds her zombie lover dead in an attic, that she'll go and start killing people, which is a ridiculous premise. But Claire just kind of makes it so cool. She's so cool and sophisticated and film noir that you just kind of go along with it. You go along with this style. You start with reality, and then on top of that, the thing that like the real icing on the cake, and the thing that brings it all together is the score. His name's just gone from me. Anyway, I'm old. Sorry, Christopher Young. Christopher Young's incredible score, which takes this film and elevates it into this something so much bigger, because it starts with the little music box thing, which of course Harry Potter used, and then kind of builds that and builds that and builds that until the kind of final, the end section where the dragon's flying away. There's this like rousing orchestra playing this incredible score, and it just makes, as an audience, you think, wow, for me anyway, wow, I've just seen something really special. And it's one of those films we use at the time. You go already buzzing from the theatre thinking, yeah, if all theatre was like this, you just want to go and see more of it. So yeah, we were all incredibly lucky. And but then after that, Hellraiser 2 happened, and I think, and then Nightbreed the following year we did, and then I think we all thought, okay, that's production all for us in the UK. Then moved over to the States, and most of us went back to doing theatre. Certainly for about 10 years, I did a load of theatre, and I thought, oh, that was good. It was a nice point in my life, and I got to do some film and stuff, but nothing really happened. And it wasn't until the 10th anniversary of Hellraiser that Doug rang me up, and he obviously carried on doing the Hellraiser franchise, and said there are these conventions starting up in the US, and I've done a few of them, and they've asked one of them, this one in Boston called Monster Model Fest, which I don't know if it still exists, would really like you to come and come over, and they're going to fly you over and everything else, and meet people and sign autographs. Well, okay. And then suddenly, and of course that must have been the start of the convention circuit, I assume.
Yeah.
And since then, we haven't really looked back, because for that 10 years, after about 7 years, we really hadn't talked Hellraiser at all. It was just something we'd done in the past. And then suddenly the convention circuit brought it right back into everybody's psyche. And of course, recently with the new Hellraiser with a decent budget, and Jamie Clayton playing Pinhead, and it's suddenly it's become mainstream again. So yeah, very lucky.
Speaking of conventions, I don't think you see this or not, but that's all of us there. Oh, it's blurry. There we go.
Oh yeah. It's focusing now. Oh my god, look at everybody. I know. Oh my god, I've got the same T-shirt. How embarrassing.
Yeah.
I've got the same T-shirt on. I do have more clothing.
But I was very determined.
This is my talking about Hellraiser T-shirt.
I was very determined to get a group photo and have Clive Barker hold the Pinhead mask. It was just one of the greatest days of my life. I mean, I fell in love with this franchise after I saw it. I mean, even when people on like social media like asked me, name a great horror movie that has to do with like a love story, and my first answer all the time is Hellraiser, because I mean it's the ultimate scary love story that everyone comes to love. I mean,
yeah.
Even in the sequel, I mean the second part, it's a phenomenal franchise, and it's just all the Cenobites who are the first two movies are legendary. I mean, everybody is just legendary in this franchise. Um, when it came to filming and seeing the pre-production and the post-production, do you have any favorite scenes from any of the movies?
From the Hellraisers or from any of the movies? From Hellraisers.
Oh, Hellraiser or Nightbreed. Nightbreed's a good movie too. I love Nightbreed. I mean,
I love my death scene in Nightbreed. That was really fun to film. Nightbreed was more fun for me generally because the Hellraiser makeup was very difficult to wear because there were no eye holes and it was no nose hole, no ear holes, and I couldn't breathe through my mouth. I could only breathe through my mouth, but I couldn't close my mouth. So I didn't really experience the whole film set or talking to other actors or anything because I was in my own little kind of sealed off bubble for most of the films, one and two. So Nightbreed was kind of revelationary for me to be, and also because we filmed that in Pinewood Studios and it had a really big budget for the day. So it had these huge, great big, amazing, like 5-story sets. And they were phenomenal to look at. The death scene was great. Interestingly enough, I wasn't cast as Onaka to start with. The singer from Soft Cell, whose name again goes from my head, Mark Almond. Yeah, it's come back. It's there, still there. It's just kind of slightly fuzzy. I'd like to blame this. I'll just say I'd like to blame this, but it is a non-alcoholic, so I can't have some anyway. So all the makeup and all the burns makeup. So Anaka burns, spoiler. Anaka kind of burns as he's taken out into the sun, and it had all these body makeup sections that they'd all been made, and his face had been made for Mark Ullman, not me. But strangely enough, they all fitted, so that was a relief. But it was fun, kind of working with a fight director on a film. That was the first time I'd done that. I'd done fight training at drama school, but I was never very good at it. So it was good to work with a professional. I mean, he's the guy, Andy somebody, I can't remember his surname. Sorry, Andy. But he's done like every big film you've ever heard of. He's been the fight director on it. I did actually make a mistake during it. So there was one part of that fight scene where the cop had a rifle butt and he was like rifle butting me in the back of the head. And I misjudged the timing of it. I was supposed to come up like this, and then he rifle butted me, and obviously went down like that. And I came up like this as he was coming down, and when there was this crack sound as he actually rifle butted the back of my head. It was like my skull was the cracked sound, and there was this like silence. Went, oh shit, are you okay? It's like, oh yeah, just give me a little time. But you know, you learn, you live and learn. And they before each take of that, they had this special effects guy filling my pantaloons up with smoke because they worked out. In fact, and that's something I'd found out recently. They learnt this technique, or Clive had learnt this technique from Doug on Hellraiser. They were doing, I think it was Hellraiser 1. They'd done a scene with Hellraiser 1, and it must have been because he directed that one. They filled his costume up with smoke before each take. And they wanted this idea that he was kind of rising up from hell. I think it was the first time you saw Pinhead ever. And but they filmed his costume up with smoke. And a few weeks later, Clive rang Doug and said, we're going to have to reshoot all of that. And Doug was saying, oh shit, what did I do wrong? I went, no. It looked like you were on fire. It's just we could hardly see you. But obviously, Clive being Clive, he made a mental note of that. So then for the Nightbreed, me actually looking like I was on fire, they filled my pantaloons up with smoke, and it did look like I was on fire. So that was really cool. The only regret with it was I had to finish the whole sequence in this fetal position because they had a mock-up body of me, which was full of explosives. And I had to finish like that. And then obviously I came out and they went to the machine, this body, and then blew it up. But they'd taken me away to have my makeup taken off because obviously it was going to take a few hours to take off. And I had this incredible explosion and everybody went, oh, that was you blowing up. I went, no, I would have wanted to see that. That would have been cool. But yeah, it was good. It was a good effect. And again, for the score, the score for that behind my death scene was his name's gone again. Anyway, very famous composer. Sorry.
No, I have a confession to make. I feel like a bad super fan because
You've never seen Nightbreed?
No. I've seen that. No, I love Nightbreed. It's one of my favorite movies. I didn't know that Craig Sheffer was Boone and in Hellraiser Inferno. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I did not know that until I went to Monster Mania. I looked at myself like, holy shit. And then I asked my fiance, will you please slap me? She's like, why? Because I feel like such a bad fan because I did not know that was the same person.
Yeah, no,
Because he was
Craig's such a.
because in Nightbreed he's skinnier, but in Hellraiser Inferno he gained some weight. He got a little thicker, and his accent was different. So I didn't realize it's the same person. So, but anyway, meeting Craig Shevin was awesome because, like I said, Nightbreed is one of my favorite movies. And God, who else was there? Nicholas Vincent, he was there too.
Uh-huh.
And he signed. Let's say he signed the mask too. Actually, Laura signed the mask. Everybody signed my mask. It was just a great day for me. And
Andy
I
Robinson
regret,
and Barbie as well.
yeah, she signed
Barbie
it as
Wilde.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only regret I have is not getting a picture with you because I had the opportunity, but you were just your table was just so full.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For
And
anybody watching, I never charge for selfies. I think it's a step too far. And people, people haven't got money these days, and I don't charge. I don't expect people to come and buy something. If you got no money and you come in to see the show, come and get a selfie. It doesn't cost anything. So yeah, not everybody's like that, but do come. But yeah, the lines were quite long. They were quite long. I think
Butterball
this.
doesn't have any lines though, so
Yeah, yeah, good one. No, nicely tied in. He did. He did have lines. Yeah, originally he was going to say, perhaps we prefer you and impossible, but I couldn't put my teeth together and lips together because of the dentures that they glued on top of my own teeth. And you can't say P's or B's if you can't put your lips together. Try it at home now. P, B. Perhaps we prefer you. Try saying that without putting your lips together. Perhaps we can hear you. Impossible. You see, and it's not very Cenobite like. Perhaps we can hear you.
so I try to say my name, which is Benjamin. I go, hey.
Yeah,
So
I know. You don't
and
realize that until you try it, and you go, ah, shit. So
and
they took all my
it,
lines away and they gave them to the female Cenobite.
so in a sense, Butterball has been immortalized because a lot of people don't know is like, have you seen Halloween H2O?
Yes, and
And
yes,
the Butterball costume is on the front porch. I noticed
he
that
is
while
the
I paused it. I was like, holy shit, there's Butterball on the front
yeah.
porch.
He is the only. I am the only Cenobite to escape the franchise and go over to another one, a super
so
horror franchise.
so you go from Hellraiser to Halloween. I mean, it's still good because Hellraiser and Halloween are my two favorite franchises of all time. I mean, there is one and two is never going to change. I was like, I've been following both franchises since I was a wee kid. So I mean, they're just both phenomenal, and all of everybody, Barbie, Vince Nichols, everybody's just phenomenal in that franchise. I mean, the first two movies I absolutely love. I mean, because every anniversary I watch both movies, just because I think sincere, honestly, I think my fiance is getting tired of that. So it's like, who wants a Hellraiser again? Yes, just sit back and watch it, okay? Or just go upstairs. Do what you got to do. I'm gonna sit here and watch both movies. I love them. So, the question I'd like to ask you is, so getting into the genre itself, the horror genre. What are some of your favorite classic and recent horror movies?
So most recent one, I just had my head shaved, which is growing back now, for a film called The Witches of the Sands, which will come out next year. And that is a film about a director, a horror movie director, who is directing a horror movie, but is having a nervous breakdown. So you're not sure if the scenes that you are seeing in this film are the scenes that he is filming for his film that is called The Witches of the Sands, or things that are actually happening in real life, or scenes from past movies that he has filmed. So there are all these weird and wonderful. There's also animated sections like that look a little bit like the Monty Python animated films. So it's really wild. I've already did some stuff for it last year, playing a completely different character, and that was with the guy. Oh God, name's gone again. The guy from the Human Centipede. Um, Human Centipede 2, I think. Anyway, so I did my scenes with him, but then this one was for a cop. Um, spoilers. I won't say the spoilers, but yeah. So it was for a cop who was interviewing the film director because people were going missing on his film set, and so me and my partner. But strangely enough, I played the same cop in a completely different horror film um, last year, which was filmed about 3 years ago, called Mosaic, and the director God, it's complicated. The director saw me and my female partner in playing these two cops together as partners and said, we really liked what you did in that film Mosaic, and we want those two characters to be in this film, which is The Sands. So confused. So they're the most recent things I've done. I've also been doing some stuff called Dark Ditties Presents, which you can still see on Amazon Prime. If you put in Dark Ditties, that's Ditties, not Titties, Presents. You have to be careful these days what you say. Don't upset anybody. But anyway, Dark Ditties Presents. And that is on Amazon Prime. And there are 5 episodes on that. And I'm in every episode. Episode 1 also has Barbie Wilde and Nick Vince and Oliver Smith, who played Skin Frank from Hellraiser. Those 3, and also one of the special effects guys from Hellraiser. So that was episode 1. Episode 2, I played an old lady. Episode 3, I played a guy who had stolen from the mob. Episode 4, oh yes, a creepy groundsman in a haunted house. And episode 5 was set in the future. It was in a zombie apocalypse, and I played a father who had lost his daughter. Really, really interesting, really exciting stories, and they're all they feel completely disconnected and completely separate storylines. It's a bit like American Horror Story, but they do actually all start to connect and have the same characters that weave them together. So that's an interesting one. I haven't done work on that for a couple of years. What was the first part of your question?
No, so I asked you, what are some of your favorite classic and recent horror movies?
Oh, sorry, I'm saying about me. That I've seen. It's all about me. I'm an actor. It's my ego. My head is big. Look, it's big. It's big. God, what a prat. What an ego. Okay, my favorite horror movies. My favorite all time is Texas Frightmare. Not Texas Frightmare. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original.
Okay.
I was very lucky enough in the early days of conventions in Germany to meet Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface. And I did a podcast a while back actually, which was all about Texas Frightmare, Texas Chainsaw. So I did a load of Massacre. I did a load. Sorry, I'm old. I did a load of research on it, and it was really interesting to find out what was going on. The guy who played the grandfather at that horrifying scene, so much it was horrifying, said he would only wear that mask once, and so they filmed that meal scene, and it took them 30 hours. They did 30 hours solidly of filming the same scene, and it kind of shows, if you look at those actors, they're all quietly going stir crazy. They're all quietly furious and mad and angry and exhausted. And all of that, when you know that that's what they were going through, you can see it. You can really see it. You watch that whole scene in a completely different light. And I think
I can confirm that because I talked to Alan Danziger last year, who played Jerry. He said it was the most excruciating filming he's ever done because the part where Gunnar Hansen hits him on the head with a hammer actually hit him on the head with a hammer. And he said he had headaches for days. I mean, it's like I don't blame him. Of course he would. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, it's crazy.
I think there was a lot of health. I mean, back in those days, even on the Hellraiser, I think there were a lot of crossing lines on health and safety. Like I worked, I did some work on the Fright Night film for the making of video of it. So I did a load of research on that as well. And part of the research I found on that was that some of the special effects guys were creating these illusions and things and going home. And one of them went home, realized that the stuff he'd been putting on to kind of make this melting mask look had actually dripped onto his shoe and had eaten through his shoe. Thankfully, hadn't actually reached the bone because otherwise it would have actually come through his foot. So I think that, there were a lot of health and safety it didn't really exist, to be honest, in those days. They were kind of very blurred lines, but there were a lot of toxic chemicals used and a lot. And in fact, Doug's famous story of his audition for Pinhead, not his audition for Pinhead, I tell a lie, it was Claire Higgins audition for whatever part she played in Hellraiser. Anyway, fuzzy brain. Whatever part she played, it will come to me. She was auditioning, and Clive had asked his good friend Doug if he would read in for her, and he said, "Yeah, of course I will." And it was the scene where he was reading the scene of the victim. She's picked up in the bar and brought back, and so they read this scene, and then they got this hammer, and I think it was a real. No, it wasn't. It was a foam hammer. It was a rubber hammer, but it was still pretty solid. Or was it a real one? I can't remember. Anyway, better if it was a real one. Pretend it was a real one, hanging on this hook. And she did the scene, and he was to say the line and then duck out of camera, and then she was going to go and whack him over the head. They did the scene, and then there was this absolute silence from behind the camera. Absolute silence that went on and on and on. And eventually Doug said, "Is everything all right? Are you okay?" And they said, "Claire missed your head with the hammer by that much." And I think it must have been a real hammer. And the ferociousness that she would have fractured your skull.
Right.
So yeah, there was another kind of health and safety. I think it must have been a real hammer. I don't know. Anyway, another.
Yeah, well, we're running out of time. So I just say
sorry.
We've already just started. It's okay. No, we have a minute left. So
we'll do a part two. Part two.
And Zoom's gonna cut me off in a minute because I hate Zoom because it's a pain in the butt. So
okay.
Thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope you have a wonderful weekend and in your Ecodome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm off to France tomorrow, so yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the original Butterball, Simon Bamford. Hellraiser fans alike, go check him out, man. He's an awesome actor, incredible individual, and please follow him on Facebook and social media. He's such an awesome dude. Yeah, and thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you on the big screen.
Cheers.